I see dead people.
Hot shit.
Here's Johnny.
Stop.
We have such sights to show you.
Bring the motherfucking ruckus. Fuck you too.
Okay. I feel like every time I record with you, I want to start by saying, King Ramses! The man and ghost, the man and ghost.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, you were right. Return the slab,
Yeah.
or suffer the curse. We don't want any. There's something about Courage the Cowardly Dog that sits in my soul. As being,
I mean, it seems like it's right up your alley.
As something I should not have watched when I was a kid, and it really did affect me, as you can tell, because it was like creepypasta as a show for kids, and it definitely left its impact, as you so aptly put it. But it's also like maybe the first experience I had with like a cartoon actually being scary. There were things that scared me as a kid, right? But you go to like cartoons to be like, I'm gonna laugh at something and just kind of get distracted for 20 minutes. It's like,
yeah, there's nothing in SpongeBob that's gonna make you jump besides maybe like some of the close-ups.
Right, but even
sort of like overly detailed. But even then, it's
funny.
It's just kind of maybe gross.
They're not the first people to do that. Like, you know,
no,
a lot of Warner Brothers animation did the same gimmicks. But it's
Ren and Stimpy.
It wasn't until I think Goosebumps: Are You Afraid of the Dark age that I was like, man, shit on TV, even aimed at kids, can be fucked up. And then, you know, you get Courage the Cowardly Dog and Misadventures of Flapjack and a bunch of shit on Adult Swim, and you're just like, yep, nope, even cartoons can be a little creepy.
Oh yeah, no, Courage. I was a huge baby when I was younger, so Courage is one of those shows that I could watch depending on the episode. Mm-hmm. And there were certain episodes that like I would watch part of and then just turn it off because I was like, well, fuck this. I'm uncomfortable. I don't like that.
I even remember Rugrats and Hey Arnold episodes that made me a little wobbly in the knees. So
the Hey Arnold episode where he has this dream where his grandfather's on the bus and he starts laughing. The grandfather starts laughing at him and his jaw falls off.
Yes, I remember.
His whole jaw falls off of his face. That shit's spooky as hell.
Yeah, I remember that. That one. I always liked the episode Wheeze and Ed. I think that's the scariest Hey Arnold episode. All the kids talk about that haunted tale, and then they go out to the actual cave, and they get lost in there, and then they actually start hearing something. And I also like the Ghost Train episode. That one's a fun one, obviously.
Oh yeah,
obviously on theme. But even Rugrats had that episode where they were still like in their minds as babies, but they had the bodies of adults, and they had to like go to their job and like go to work. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
Where they're like, time to go to the work to do the business now, and it's like they have little baby heads on giant human bodies, and work is like sitting at a desk and getting yelled at every day. Like, like, damn, what a real episode for a fucking 6-year-old to watch.
Yeah, for sure. And there's also the one moment when Tommy's like afraid of like getting a cut, or maybe it's Chucky, and then like has this nightmare of like falling over and scraping his knee.
Oh yeah,
and then stuffing is coming out of it.
Yeah,
and he starts pulling at the stuffing, and just more and more comes out. Like that's a pretty horrifying like body horror shit to do in a kid show. I feel like. Definitely unsettled me.
Just because we are on topic, and I don't believe I have asked you, and excuse me if I have, because I've forgotten, but like, where did the name come from?
Ramses?
Yeah.
Vanderslice?
Yeah.
So the Ramses, I have a pretty distinct story for this, and I was in college, and we were reading what's the title? Ozymandias, right?
Yeah,
The Percy Shelley
yeah.
poem. And like Ozymandias is just like another name for Ramses II. And we were like, like a very classic poem to analyze, too vast, trunkless legs of stone, all that stuff. All great works fade, whatever. And one of the kids was like, you have to feel bad for Ramses. Like you have to sympathize with Ramses. And I just thought it was really funny that this kid, who is like regularly a shithead, was like, you really got to sympathize with the God King. Like, don't you have to feel bad for the man that had all the power in the universe? And I'm like, no, man, what are you talking about? So I thought that was very funny. And then
oh my gosh,
I thought it was funny to pair like a really strong Egyptian name with an incredibly stuffy like British surname. And I think Vanderslice is just funny surname. So there's nothing behind that really.
I mean, there's the story. The story is what matters. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you have to feel bad for Ramses.
You have to feel bad for Ramses.
There's no way. No, and everyone was like, no, you don't actually
you really
have to.
don't have to feel bad for him. That is hilarious. I'm glad I asked because it didn't strike me until I was like actually putting together today's episode where I was like, I should ask him where that came from.
It's a pretty wild name. People tell me to change it regularly because it's not easily Googleable. But I am the only one.
You are currently the only Ramses I know of. So even if you're not the second, you are the Ramses. So that's fair.
Thank you.
And just to share, because I feel like it's been a while since I've told the story, but Captain Death was the most unironic villain name I was able to come up with when I was maybe in like I want to say 5th grade at like the earliest, maybe 6th grade.
Oh, no way.
And I was like, what's more imposing than like what would essentially be Captain America, but just about fucking dying? Like, what if Captain America wasn't about the Star-Spangled Country, but what if it was just a guy who called himself Captain and went around convincing everyone like death was the way to go? Just like Skeletor brought into a modern age.
So not fighting people, just sort of using Jedi mind tricks to make them kill themselves. That's incredible. Okay.
and in my head, I was just like, we can add another level to this, right? The second level I added was we can make him really fucking annoying. We can make. I was like, what if? Now follow me. What if Spider-Man, comes swinging down one day to fight a guy who's held up a bank, and he gets into the bank and he sees that everyone has killed themselves, and it's because there's a guy sitting at like the teller's desk who won't shut the fuck up, and he eventually just psychically drains people of their life, that they end up dying just from being around him.
So you kind of like prefigured Colin Robinson on
almost
Shadows.
Almost. The annoying part is hiked up to like the level of, I would say, like a 12-year-old boy in a man's body. Though.
Oh, okay.
So it's more like it's less Colin Robinson, because I do follow the psychic vampire aspect of that, but it was definitely more. It was more like, I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna talk about Bionicles for 3 hours, and if you're still alive by the end of it, I'll leave you alone.
That's so cool. I love that.
I just thought it was the most horrifying.
Super villain.
I thought it was the most horrifying thing as a child. I was like, what if the super villain was me? What if
it was me?
What if he just really wanted to talk about Zoids and no one else wanted to listen, and then they killed themselves from being around it?
That is surprisingly self-aware for 5th grade. I think.
I'm gonna age it up. I'm gonna say it was in between 6th and 8th. So it was in between 12.
Okay.
It was in between 12 and like 14. So not 5th. I will say 5th. 5th is when I was still, doing a lot of dumb shit. But
Sure.
one of the first things like I wrote that I wanted to like put on YouTube was a series of 3 supervillains who were forced to live together because they're not good enough at being supervillains to be like popular or successful financially. Right. So they essentially had to be roommates. And they're all awful at their jobs, and they all have terrible names and superpowers and shit. And it was a high key concept that I tried very hard to develop, and it just often dovetailed into me and my friends coming up with really stupid concepts and filming them. And the low key idea that it was this reality show about 3 idiots living together often got ignored for the hijinks that we would get up to, just as 3 kids dressed as supervillains walking around in public taking things way too seriously. There was a meta fourth wall aspect to it that I later started to enjoy like way more. Though where the show often gravitated was more so about the 3 of them living together and how they just weren't compatible at all.
Sure.
How they would annoy one another. And that's where the YouTube comes in, because it was like one of the first things I filmed when I was a kid. I'm talking DV tape import through FireWire onto an old PC, Windows Movie Maker. Good times. Good times. That's where Captain Death came from. I would wear a purple hood Grim Reaper costume with a Jack Skellington jacket, and I would have bone hands, but the entire bottom half of me is usually just like in shorts and flip-flops. And
nice.
I would just walk around and be like, I don't know, I would try to do like a really annoying voice, and then I would ask people if they're scared yet. Basically is what Captain Death was when I was 13.
Are you scared yet?
I
love that. Cracking your knuckles. Am I there yet? Did you get it?
2 other people on this show are 2 of my friends that I did that with, and their supervillain names were El Toro Loco Pimp. And the other one was Steve, which is Steve with a question mark. And El Toro Loco Pimp was essentially Bane, but with swagger. Sure. I'm not gonna say Bane doesn't have swagger. I'm more so talking the original luchador version of Bane, like the comic
right. I was gonna
Bane,
say,
because Tom Hardy in Dark Knight Rises is exactly what this guy wanted to be and failed at being, which is hilarious in hindsight. But Steve was really just like a really shitty ninja. So I guess I would say like a Ra's al Ghul Riddler knockoff that was really bad at his job. And it was just like,
I like that.
You are now being put to reckoning from Steve? Question mark?
Was it always drawn out, the E?
Steve?
Or was it?
Yeah,
Steve?
almost always.
Okay,
Almost always. Almost always. But yeah, those wonderful people are on the show. Their names did not carry over because they had evolved since the age of 13. And
sure, yeah, that's definitely The Steve
I have
joke
not,
is definitely
which
a joke
is
that I have made.
The joke there is that I have not. I am still Captain Death in my heart and in my soul.
Well,
I have not changed since I was 13.
some people mature faster than others.
I was gonna say, I'm
So,
pretty sure I met you when I'm pretty sure I met you when I was 13. So I think this is
that
fair.
sounds correct.
I think this is fair. What I will say is, their names that they came onto the show with later are Terry the Tickler and a bunch of baby ducks.
A bunch of baby ducks.
Correct.
Nice.
Those,
like in a trench coat kind of deal. That's his name, though.
quite literally is
baby
how
ducks.
that's actually how I drew him, in a coat with a hood, because I wanted to make his face, out of baby ducks. And so that's what I did. I'm now pulling up my SoundCloud so that I could show you the illustrations of these people. Because I think you'll appreciate it. I based Terry the Tickler off of Jeff the Killer. I drew my friend's face as Jeff the Killer, basically.
Is Jeff the Killer? Is that the comic that was done by the Invader Zim guy?
No, you're
Or am I thinking something else?
thinking of homicidal. Fuck.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind then.
Homicide. What the fuck is his name? I totally forget now.
Something the homicidal maniac. I just don't know what the name is.
Jeff the Killer is a creepypasta. He was right after The Dark Knight came out. This meme went around of this guy's like bleached face with red smile saying "Go to sleep."
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, I drew my friend as that monster essentially. I'm capturing it right now just to share its wonderful authenticity with you. And
Jesus
then,
Christ.
and then I drew my other friend as a literal gaggle of baby ducks making up his face because I thought it would be very unsettling to look at, and it's not very unsettling, but it's uncanny to say the least.
Jesus Christ. No, that's awesome. But
it's like where did the mouth come from?
Yeah, who knows? Who knows?
That's what happens when a bunch of baby ducks come together to form a human being.
Yeah, that's more unsettling than it has any right to be, right? Because I can't imagine something cuter than ducklings.
Yeah, just a bunch of baby
the
ducks.
The mouth really fucks me up.
Oh, anyway, we've been hanging, we've been talking, we've been divulging, but what I appreciate about you, Ramses, is that you're a man of many talents and you're a man of many words, and when I ask you what you want to do, you give me a fucking answer. Unlike so many other people on this goddamn show.
I like to be decisive about these things because I know how easy it is to waffle. So I'm happy to steer the ship.
This show might as well just be called Lots of Waffles because that's what I tend to do when people sit down and say, I don't know what I want to read today. So what I did, ladies and gents, on this episode of Lots of Pasta with Ramses Vanderslice,
I'm not sure.
I think I was just looking at the new statistics on how SoundCloud uploads things. I think they said I'm over 27,000 minutes.
Jesus. I don't even think I've taken 266 shits in my life. I need to see a doctor about that. But that's crazy.
I'm seeing how I want to see if that what that computes to
How
18.
many poops per year?
No. That's 18.75 days. That's 450 hours. Oh,
Jeez.
they say you're not an expert in something until you get to like 1,000, right?
Yeah, that's true. Well, I think it's 10,000. Talking about Malcolm Gladwell?
Maybe
Guy's a
that's.
hack. Don't listen to him. You're already an expert. You just gotta believe.
I'm saying I need to count my post hours, right? Like I need to count the hours
Oh,
that
yeah.
it's actually taking me to record and edit and everything.
Uh-huh.
If there are 450 hours live, I'd easily triple that to say that that's where I'm at in
Sure.
the amount of work I've put into this. But the thing I wanted to talk about, we're going back. Every once in a while I like to have these episodes, right? Because we're going back to how this show like used to work, right? I don't think there's anything people expect from me more during like Halloween than to do the show as authentically as I can, right? So this last episode I did a solo episode, excuse me, where I read a story about a guy sitting at a bar drinking, and a redhead walks in and basically persuades this guy into believing that she is the devil incarnate. And I was like, oh, that's fun. It's a fun little story. It was a single story throughout the entire episode. But what the show used to be was me and my friends, whoever they may be in the beginning episodes, we would sit down, we would look at a list, and we would just fucking pick something. It would always be this wild, you never know what's coming next, sort of off the cuff dive into online fiction and just see,
Right.
hey, what was this person feeling at that exact time that they wanted to write about, and just go ahead and publish and put online. Let's see what they have to say.
Sure.
And there's under the
Are
umbrella
these
of
all
creepypasta.
still,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, are these all still like unread by you? Because this document's
Correct.
fucking huge. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Oh no, the document used to be thousands of pages long. I gave Ramses a list of the minimal amount of creepypastas I have left. I don't have many of them. And I said, pick 2. And then I picked 2. And then I gave Ramses my list of Reddit no sleep stories, and I said, pick 2, and I'll pick 2. So we're going to read 8 stories today, and they're going to be all across the board. They have a bunch of crazy titles, but this is essentially what the show used to be, and I always like to get back to it every once in a while, because I think it still promotes a spontaneity that I really enjoy enabling on these episodes, because you never know what comes next.
I'm excited.
It's very campfire-esque, that was the original idea, is if the world of online horror fiction exists, then why isn't there like a new TV show like Are You Afraid of the Dark style about like the best stories on no sleep? Like, why isn't that something Shudder has chosen to do yet?
I'm pretty surprised they haven't.
These are $1 million ideas that I'm just throwing out there for free. And I'd even say some of our best episodes would make for some of the best episodes to be adapted live. And the closest we've ever gotten is Sci-Fi had a show called Channel Zero that did a different creepypasta or no sleep for each season. And as much as I liked it and as much as I enjoyed, it only lasted 4 seasons, so it only adapted 4 stories. As much as I enjoyed it, it took short stories and drew them out well beyond their page count. Mm-hmm. And it always just kind of leaves something wanting. Because the thing that makes some of these creepypastas great is just how short they are. Candle Cove, great fucking story, maybe 8 pages long. The season 1 of Channel Zero that adapted that into a live action thing, I think it was 8 episodes, and each of them are like 45 minutes to an hour long. So it's like, you just stretched an 8-page story into an 8-hour narrative. Why would you do that?
That's insane.
It's cool. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to shit on it. I have all 4 of the seasons. I try to share them with as many people who don't know about that as possible, just because it is, obviously I relate to that. Obviously I want to promote that because I am promoting people's fiction online the same way that they are. So, yeah, creepypasta, when it comes to creepypasta, it is very often like notably dated or poorly written, and that's why I think it's funny, at least funnier than No Sleep. I think there is a level of quality with No Sleep where if someone says something is good, it's actually good. Whereas if someone says something is good on creepypasta, it just means that it spooked them a little bit, maybe. It doesn't mean it was written well. It doesn't mean that it's actually competent. It just means that someone got a light frightened. You know?
Yeah. I get frightened like every day when I leave the house. Rarely is it good.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm looking for right now. I want you to think that I'm going to make you go outside.
I want you to act like I am a belligerent driver and I could run you over at any moment. That's most of the spooking that happens in my life, to be honest.
I'm your
Uber.
I'm your Uber, and I'm not going the right way.
Oh no. You're my Uber driver and the car smells so bad. And there's still 20 more minutes of the car ride left. And I have no idea what the smell could be.
I won't stop talking about Dragon Ball Z, and I only answer to the name Captain Death.
That would be I would think that's hilarious.
Oh, okay, that's
because I'm only Ubering for like 30 minutes. I can talk about Dragon Ball Z for that long. Yeah, try me. Or I can let you talk about Dragon Ball Z for that long. Go
just
crazy.
nod your head the entire time, like no, totally.
And what about Yamcha? I'll prompt
Kamek,
you. You know,
Kamek, yeah.
Just say one word. Oh, that's
Yamcha,
awesome.
just Yamcha. Yeah, Yamcha. Yeah,
Yamcha, right?
I mean, if you're gonna say one thing, you might as well say Yamcha. All right.
What a guy.
what a guy. We're gonna let you start, and I think what's funny about the first one we're gonna read,
dude. I've been like skimming over it. It is not a story.
It's page 637 in case you don't have it.
Oh, I'm here.
You're here. You're here, and we're ready. I'm already reading it, and I'm just like, someone just fucking wrote this. All right. Let's see what the world felt that they needed to put pen to paper. We're gonna start with Ramses reading a story called "Turn Me On, Dead Man."
Right. Yeah. Immediately intrigued. So, "Turn Me On, Dead Man" by Danny.
Danny is actually the one who referenced this story and told me to read it. He's a listener on the show.
Oh, well then thank you, Danny, for grabbing this for me to read. We all know Paul McCartney, the beloved member of the Beatles. That's a strong start. We all do know Paul McCartney. In some circles. Sure, well, yeah, okay, yeah, sure.
Who really knows Paul McCartney? Not even the Beatles, apparently.
Probably nobody, yeah. In some circles, it is believed that he actually died in a car accident in 1966 and was replaced by a look/sound-alike in order to spare the public from the grief of losing such a cherished idol.
But let's just kill Michael Jackson.
It was feared that his death would cause devastation, even mass suicides among his fans.
Wait, we're talking about Paul McCartney, right?
Paul McCartney.
We're not talking about like Elvis. Or like
even Elvis, who's doing this? I don't know. This is such a crazy. I have a feeling we're going to get into it because this is not a long story.
Into it. I'm not gonna interrupt.
And no. The interrupting is fine. It's just because this isn't really a story. This is just like a sort of synopsis of this conspiracy theory. It seems like, and
turn
this
me
is like
on,
far from me.
Deadman.
I assumed who's going to be. I'll keep going. Another common, more logical belief is that this was simply a rumor that the band played into to gain publicity. That sounds right. According to the theory, Paul drove off in his car and Austin Healey after an argument with the band during a recording session. It is said that he crashed his car and died. He was supposedly replaced by a lookalike who's been rumored to be William Campbell, the winner of a Paul McCartney lookalike contest. The band may have looked like Paul, but how would he manage to imitate his distinct musical styles? Some believe he was very strictly and professionally trained to sound just like him. By who? By who? Right? So I don't know a ton about the Beatles. But
Sure.
It does strike me that this was the era of like producing your own music. Like the Beatles weren't really obsessively stage managed. They were their own like guiding unit. So if for this to be true, it would have to be like the other three. It would have to be Lennon, Ringo, and fucking George Harrison getting together and like clandestinely training this man to become Paul. There's no possible way.
And I don't know how to tell the person who wrote this that that isn't likely.
No fucking way. Are you kidding me? Maybe George Harrison and Ringo Starr could have done it if they really cared to do it. John Lennon would not help with that project.
Lennon would not have given a single shit.
There's no possible. He could barely do his own stuff most of the time.
Correct.
There's no way. It's crazy. It's crazy that like that people believe this. They believe this about like Avril Lavigne. They believe this about so many. There are like so many like this.
Barack Obama is a reptilian. Yeah. I've seen it. I understand.
At least that one I kind of understand. But with the whole like this musician died and was replaced with an identical clone, it's like why would you ever need to do that? You can just get a different musician. Nobody cares, really. Sorry.
I appreciate how much this is actually getting you.
Well, okay, like the whole Ramses shtick is like started off as a conspiracy channel because I just think conspiracies are funny. But so
right,
this
we've talked about the channels you're aping before.
Right.
So
and like this is just a common kind of conspiracy theory that I just don't get. Like it doesn't do other conspiracy theories like at least give you this sense of like
there's a rabbit hole.
Like
someone went down a rabbit hole. They got all of these things to deal with each other. They made a web, that they're drawing all these lines to. Mm-hmm. There aren't lines with this one. Someone just made this up, and someone swallowed it.
All right, I'll keep going. Sorry, I just have feelings. As the rumors spread, fans began to notice various clues hidden in songs and album artwork. A well-known clue is that the words spoken by John Lennon in the song Strawberry Fields Forever are, "I buried Paul." The famous Abbey Road album cover has also been interpreted as a funeral procession. John is dressed in white to symbolize the preacher or religious figure. Ringo is dressed in black to symbolize the mourner or mortician, pallbearer. There are various interpretations. George is dressed in denim to symbolize the grave Hold on.
A little bit loose on that one.
What does that mean? George is dressed in denim to symbolize the grave digger?
I think they just mean the blue collar aspect of it. The literal person outside of religion and outside of family who has to be present when someone dies.
I think that's crazy. I think this person thinks that like everyone that works in a funeral, God, what are they called? Cemetery. Wow, geez. Everyone that works in a cemetery is like dressed in a Canadian tuxedo. That's the uniform. And Paul dear God, is barefoot and out of step with the rest of the band, symbolizing the deceased.
I don't know if that symbolizes the deceased or just.
I don't. Yeah, dude, you can just say whatever. He was wearing denim, which reminds me of
I don't
death.
know if you've ever written anything online or put anything online before, Ramses, but you really can just say whatever.
That's really cool. It's giving me 10th grade English essay that you were writing the night before. I think the rug symbolized death because they frequently do. I say so. There are various other clues hidden in the Abbey Road artwork, including a license plate on a Volkswagen that reads 28IF, supposedly indicating that Paul would be 28 if he hadn't crashed, if he had survived the crash.
That is fucking hilarious.
Paul would have actually been 27.
What
immediately undercuts. Okay.
What if we had been super serious though, and I put this like really tense soundtrack underneath your reading, and you actually read like you were reading like Unsolved Mysteries or something, like Paul would have actually been 27, which could tie, like, what if we did this as deadpan and as serious as this author intended for this to be written and then read as?
I could do that reading. I think because of my background,
I don't want you to.
I'm immediately not doing it. But like, God, I've sat through so many of these videos where they're taking it so seriously. I do love undercutting the point immediately though, which is Paul would have actually been 27. So that which could tie into a completely different, elaborate conspiracy. Nice parenthetical. Care to elaborate?
Do tell.
Okay, no, we're just gonna let that go. But he would have been in his 28th year of existence, which by Indian belief would make him 28.
Jesus
since
Christ.
They count the time spent as a fetus part of one's life. Sure, okay. On the back cover of Abbey Road, there's a girl in a blue dress. Apparently, if you hold the album away from you and look at her elbow, there's a hidden profile of Paul. It's believed by followers of the conspiracy that this album's artwork was staged.
And her elbow stands for death.
What's... Okay, I need to look at that picture because I'm having a hard time imagining someone's elbow looking like Paul McCartney's face. But I'm gonna take this guy's word for it. He seems like he's done the research. The cover of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band also bears some clues to the conspiracy. The wax dummies of George, Ringo, and Paul are looking at a grave. There are yellow flowers shaped like a guitar. From a distance, it is believed that the flowers spell out Paul. Okay. Pump the brakes. From a distance, it is believed that the flowers spell out Paul. Do they or don't they spell out? Hold on, I'm looking it up. I don't. What does it mean? From a distance, it is believed.
Yeah. Let's give it a look.
I own this album even. Just need to see this cover image so that I can. This says Big Daddy. Is that what it says on the cover? It says Big Daddy? No, what the hell? Why is that the first thing? Why? Hold on. Sorry,
Big Daddy?
my fucking Google auto-corrected my search to Big Daddy's Sgt. Pepper's. So I was very confused as to why the first 3 images all had Big Daddy printed in the flowers.
Jesus.
I'm losing my mind.
This is making you lose your
Let me look at the actual cover. And let me read this again. From a distance, it is believed that the flowers spell out Paul. Where? Where? In the guitar?
In the part that says Beatles?
I love the whole, if you squint your eyes, it looks like this kind of thing. Because at a certain point, it almost feels like they're saying, if you close your eyes, you can imagine it's anything. Okay, so that's it does not spell Paul. There's also supposedly a doll in a green dress watching a toy car crash. What do you mean supposedly a doll in a green? It either is there or it isn't.
It's either there or it's not. You're making shit up.
I love that they're talking about it like it's an image you cannot Google. Although apparently you can't Google it because you'll look at Big Daddy's Sgt. Pepper's.
Right.
There is a girl in a green dress. I don't see a car. So, half right. 50% is not bad. On the back cover, Paul's back is turned to the camera. Also on the back, George is pointing at the lyrics, Wednesday morning at 5 o'clock, which is the rumored time of Paul's death. In the song Glass Onion, the lyrics include, here's another clue for you all, the walrus was Paul. This pertains to a Norse belief that the walrus was a sign of death. Geez, really scraping the bottom of the barrel. Revolution 9 supposedly contains a hidden subliminal message. When played backwards, the words, turn me on, dead man. Turn me on, dead man. There are countless clues to this conspiracy. To share them all would take days. I doubt that. I encourage you to research.
I didn't just compile this just now, and it ends at 3 pages.
I encourage you to research the theory and come to your own conclusion. It's quite interesting, whether you believe the theory or not. Okay, I don't even know if it's interesting. I have my own opinion, though I will not state it to keep this unbiased.
Are you sure?
I really love that. That's so good. Well, now I know that this is like thoroughly researched and rigorous.
I love that the remainder of this story is just, I'll leave you with some lyrics for thought. And then he just puts come together.
Yep, he just posts the lyrics to come together, which I will not read.
Which we're not going to read because
you know it.
Because you know the lyrics to come together.
And also, what is it? Hold on. No, I do want to talk about this briefly. I'm not going to read the lyrics, but...
No, you don't have to read the lyrics, but we can talk about come together.
What do the lyrics have to do with anything?
Yep.
Because, like, the lyrics to come together are famously nonsensical.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe... I'm taking it all back now. I feel like maybe the author of this has got one over on me, and this is a huge shitpost.
I would love nothing more for that to be the truth, but I feel like I know in my heart and in my soul this person wrote this to be serious.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct. I just can't.
There's some Full Metal autism at work here.
I love to share them all would take days. I love the like call to like every conspiracy theorist will do this where they will say like a few things and then they'll be like, and also there's a million other things. I won't tell them to you right now because I respect your time. They say
exponential thing that you have to be intelligent enough to realize.
Yeah, you got to do your own research. And it's just really great because like they'll say that there's so many more things, but they in the interest of time and like your own sanity, like they're not going to mention them. And they'll say that sentence in the middle of like a 2-hour live stream they're doing about this topic. Like, I'm going to keep this brief and only talk for 3 hours this time. Jesus Christ. Okay, that's Turn Me On, Dead Man. I would rate it.
Yeah, give me
0 stars. Not a story, actually. Just not a story at all.
I hope you're ready.
For the next one?
Because I just went to pass it on, and I think it's written by the same person.
Dude, I hope so. I want an entire episode written by this guy. Because he does not have it together, and I love it.
Apparently, Danny has it out for us, because this is another one of his suggestions for us to read. Maybe Danny wrote these. This is a shout out to you, Danny. You got a lot of thoughts.
Danny, I love the first one, and if this one's similar, I thank you wholeheartedly.
I'm going to read a story called Pass It On from Creepypasta. It's quite an interesting concept. Those little pass it on messages, I mean. Do you?
What?
Chain letters.
How would I have known that? It's the first sentence, man.
Pass it on. Chain letters. And people telling you, post this in 5 different comments or else you'll die tonight. Interesting indeed. But the idea lacks originality. It's the same story with each one. Pass it on or die. Pass it on, and they go on living. A happy ending for everyone, but what if there was a little twist? Let's say that there's a photo out there. It's not one of those can't be found anywhere else type of pictures. It's actually really easy to find. Just use your chosen search engine and type in black and white photo of twins.
Just type in Big Daddy Sergeant Pepper.
Big Daddy Sergeant Pepper. You should be presented with a variety of different black and white photos of twins, but let me help you and tell you what to look for. You're looking for a picture of 2 twin girls wearing black dresses and white headbands. The twin on the left has a straight face, while the one on the right is smiling. I'm gonna carry along. I'm gonna do this. Black.
Sure, I've found the picture he's talking about.
Photo of twins.
I do like that. It's the only black and white photo of twins that I'm getting in my image search. Every other one is a picture of 2 twins where one is black and one is white. Every other one.
Maybe the story's dated.
It definitely is. I have to scroll down like quite a ways before I see another actual. They're saying photo.
No, we want the girls to be black and white, not the photo.
Mm-hmm.
All right, interesting. I see the picture. Got it. Found it. Good. Now, as you'll see, there's nothing particularly unnerving about the photo. It may be a little creepy. But other than that, it looks as normal as any other picture you've ever come across. Now, here's the twist. If you do pass it on, you die. Hey, Ramses, I'm going to text you this picture real quick.
Can you just shoot it over.
Like, share, follow, and subscribe. Now I know most of you, given this particular set of choices, would choose to leave the picture be. Wrong. But allow me to elaborate upon what happens when you don't pass the picture on to someone else. This is a story full of hypotheticals.
Yeah, well, this is someone just wrote out the brainstorming phase and forgot to write the story after.
Phase. If you leave it alone after seeing it, you'll have nightmares. I know. Bad dreams don't sound so bad when compared to the alternative. You know, I'm pulling on the sleeve of my neck. But trust me, it gets worse. It all begins with something simple. Before long, you'll see the twins standing side by side in the darkness. The girl on the left will leave, and you'll be left alone with her smiling twin. And just before you wake up, she'll whisper, "Pass it on." And her smile will widen ever so slightly. I know. It doesn't sound like much of a nightmare. The first of many, it's fairly subtle. But with each successive nightmare, things begin to change.
Thank God he's telling me what's going to happen. Because otherwise
there
might be tension.
Your nightmare.
Gradually. Sorry, keep going.
The smiling girl gets closer and closer to you, while her smile widens to impossible lengths. You won't be able to help but feel greatly disturbed and unsafe when it happens. Don't worry, that's normal. What's next, however, not so much. You'll try to wake yourself up. You'll try to move, but nothing will work. You'll find yourself trapped. She'll bring out various instruments. a guitar, a triangle, the Beatles, Big Daddy himself, a knife, chains, gasoline, matches, breakfast cereal, orangutans. Many devices to make you feel uneasy.
Many devices.
Then you panic. You can't help but think of all the horrible things this twisted, sadistic child has in store for you. And does she ever have some horrible things in store for you? Let's take a moment to think about the possibilities. Or perhaps I will just write them as more questions,
Oh, man.
What do you think she'll do to you, Ramses? Wrap the chains around your head and pull until your skull splits?
I hope so.
Gouge out your eyes? Read you another story exactly like this? Cut out your tongue, slice off your ears, burn you alive knowing that you can't move? That and more, my dear. You take the term unimaginable torture too lightly until you fall asleep.
What the fuck does that mean? What the hell does that sentence mean? Sorry,
What does that mean? If you think she'll lash you with chains, she'll do so only after she's laid them in fire and stuck railroad spikes in your back.
Oh, Jesus.
If you think she'll burn you, she'll tear open your torso, pour gasoline into the wound, and light the match. You'll wake up screaming. Your body will remember the pain it's endured while you quiver in fear. Every time you wake up, you'll notice subtle differences about your body. A bruise here, a scratch there. But as each nightmare gradually gets worse, so do the marks, which shall be left behind. Before long, the scratches will become fresh, bloody scars. If you dreamt that you took a sledgehammer to the knee, you'll wake up and rise, only to find your legs buckling below you as pain surges through your kneecaps. All the while, her words linger in the back of your mind. Subway, eat fresh. You'll try to avoid sleeping, but it's no use. The twins make their way into your reality. They're always there. At your home, at your place of work, at school. You would fight back, but their visage appears in place of the faces of your loved ones. Eventually, you'll hide yourself away from everyone in an effort to avoid seeing these demonic children. It's all in vain, however. You see them in that millisecond of darkness when you blink. You'll see them in reflections and in your peripheral vision. You'll see them everywhere. You can't escape. You can consider suicide, even attempt it, but they won't let you go so easily. That shotgun that you've got hidden in the closet, the revolver in the nightstand, useless.
What?
How strange.
What does that mean?
I'm dictating your reality. Shush. How strange they seem to be jammed, or missing the trigger entirely.
Oh, I hate it when I
hate when my gun does that.
And there's no the trigger.
That's actually how the Nazis lost World War II.
Dude, I must have left the trigger in the other nightstand. Fuck me.
A cocktail of cold and flu and pain medications won't help either. What? Oh, you're saying if you overdose on meds, it just said it in a childish way that only they would assume that if you drink an entire bottle of Theraflu, you're fucked. It's so very odd indeed how you just can't seem to hold them down long enough for them to take effect. Soon enough, you won't be able to distinguish your dreams from reality.
That's already happened.
You'll awake. No, shush. You'll awake from one torturous experience only to be greeted by alternative horrors. Without realizing it, you've given the twins a new playmate. And do they ever like to play? Well, at least one does. Fuck the other one. The smiling one is the one I want you to play with. While one plays with you, the other will just stand there watching, chanting, "Pass it on," over and over again, all the while ignoring your cries for help. There's no happy ending to be had. Should you remain optimistic, I'm afraid you're just as naive as those who came before you. And there were many, oh so many, and you won't be the last, I've made certain of it. Now, you have a decision to make. Now that you've seen the picture and discovered the consequences, whatever shall you do? Might you leave the picture be and pray that this was some twisted story? Or will you decide to pass it on?
Jesus Christ, man.
I'm gonna kill myself now.
Oh, absolutely.
I was gonna before I read it, to be fair.
I love that he's just like, yeah, if you don't share it, you'll have nightmares. And by nightmares, I mean you can't kill yourself. And also there will be real twins, and they will be torturing you for real.
Oh, that was gold.
That's wonderful.
That was frankly gold.
That's
and
wonderful.
I can't help but think that the night is gonna get worse because we're gonna read better quality stories from this point forward. Probably.
Well, we don't know that.
That's not true. You're right. You're right.
We might strike gold. I love the puzzle master sort of like syntax and tone that a lot of these creepypastas take. Like might you leave the picture be and pray that this was just some twisted story? Like you can hear them twirling their mustache as they're writing it. It's so funny. I don't know why they think that is scaring me.
I want you to move to the next story and realize that this is yet another recommendation from Danny from Creepypasta.
Danny is killing it. Thank you, Danny.
Okay. I'm just gonna call this episode Happy Halloween, Danny. like I can't call it anything else at this point because he's orchestrated this episode unknowingly. And you want to know how this story starts? By asking you another hyperbolic question. I fucking love this.
Oh man. I'm fucking losing it.
This just keeps getting better.
I'm losing it. Okay. So this story is called The Dead Man's Mouth.
Yep.
A creepypasta given to us by our God, our Lord and Savior, Danny. Would you believe me if I told you that genies were real? They are. But okay. That's all that.
They are.
But they're not like anything you'd expect them to be. The stories say that you have to rub a magic lamp to get them to come out. But that's only half true. It doesn't have to be a bottle. It can be anything. Do you want proof?
Nah.
They're just, no, yeah, you know, honestly, with these hypotheticals, I'm starting to think that maybe I don't want to play along with them. It feels like there's nothing in it for me. There's a street at the edge of town where nobody lives. I forget the name, but you know which one I'm talking about. Go there. You'll need a carton of milk and a candle. Okay, already assuming that I live in a place that has an edge of town, and I hate to break the news to this guy, but I don't. There's actually, you know, there are plenty of streets inside of Philly where nobody lives. So maybe I have to go into the interior somewhere and not to the edge. Every one of the houses on that street are empty and falling apart. Yeah, this is just inner city Philly. This is not the exterior.
I'm seeing it in my mind's eye.
Yeah, the one you're looking for doesn't appear any different from the others on the outside, but it's what's inside that makes it so special. Go inside. So how am I supposed to know which one it is?
Trespass.
Am I supposed to just enter each one of the houses until okay.
Let's go in. Here's the instructions for this story so far. Go to Philly, find a house, go inside it.
Break in.
B&E.
Go inside, shut the door behind you, and go up the stairs. They look weak, but don't worry, they won't collapse on you. Once you come to the hallway at the top, go all the way down. And, like the hallway, okay, yeah.
Yes.
Go all the way down, and there will be a closed door on your right. Knock on it. No one will answer, but it's rude to simply barge in.
But you just barged into the house.
Yeah, no, Beanie is okay. But going into someone's
But once you're in a
bedroom, come on,
boudoir.
man. Yeah, exactly. There's the whole level of privacy there.
Fair enough, honestly.
Inside, there will be a man sitting in a chair facing the door. Don't worry, this man is dead. He's been dead
I'm very
for a
worried.
long time. Yeah. He's been dead for a long, long time, but his skin is still attached to his body like he only died a week ago. You might notice that his stomach looks bloated. It's supposed to be that way. No, of course he isn't looking at you. He's dead. It's always dark in that room, no matter how bright the sun is shining. Set the candle on the table and light it. It will not illuminate the back of the room.
Who told me to bring a fucking candle? When did this become an experiment?
He said earlier you need a carton of milk and a candle. So we have 2 items that we need to bring for this sort of like puzzle.
I missed that part.
It's okay. I don't think it's that important, but we'll see. It will not illuminate the back of the room. That's all right. You don't want to see what's back there. All right. Now comes the fun part. Take your milk in one hand and with the other, reach out and open the dead man's mouth. Pour the milk inside. All of it. Don't stop.
All right, guys, this is me going live. I found a dead body and we're doing the milk challenge. Let's see if it's actually dead.
How much milk can we fit in this guy? Then, once it's all gone, step back and wait. You might hear something moving inside the dead man's stomach. Don't worry. It's supposed to do that. Strange thoughts will come to you. You will remember a song your mother sang to you when you were little. Even if your mother never sang, or if you never knew your mother, you'll remember this song. Sing it. Once you're done, you'll see the strange thing inside the dead man's stomach, the thing that made him look bloated, move. It will rise up through his chest.
Let's go, girl. Going out tonight,
throat.
I'm feeling alright. I'm gonna get out all the time.
I'm
Best
just picturing
thing
the
about
fucking-
being a woman is a little fun, yeah.
Is that what your mom would sing to you?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. And sort of like WB dancing frog jumps out of this guy's like sort of chest bursts through the sky like alien and starts dancing to it. I would break it. I would do some B&E to experience
Hello, my
that.
baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime girl.
It will rise up through his chest, then up his throat, and then finally, it will force the dead man's mouth open and fall out onto the table. You won't know how to describe it. You describe it to be, sorry.
Please.
You won't know how to describe it. All red, oozing meat and teeth, eyes, and a long tendril that runs from its back into the dead man's mouth. It almost looks like a fetus, though certainly not a human one. Don't worry, it won't hurt you. This is the genie you came to see.
Oh.
It will say something in a language nobody knows, and a hand you cannot see will place something on the table in front of you. Take it. It's not polite to refuse gifts.
From
It'll
a
be one
meat sack on a table.
From this undescribable thing. It will be one of 3 things, and what happens next depends on what you receive. Once you take it, the genie will go back inside the dead man's stomach to sleep. If you receive a small copper coin, thank the dead man and leave. Take the milk carton. Do not blow out the candle. Go home and go right to bed. When you wake up, something good will happen to you. It's different for everybody, but the result is always good. If you receive the head of a tin soldier, you will blink and find yourself back on the sidewalk outside the dead man's house, and you will see yourself going through the front door. Do not follow yourself inside, because this time the door will not lead into the dead man's house. Go home.
But that sounds like a fun story.
I don't want to write that story right now.
Yeah,
Shut up.
I know you
I don't want to write it. You know what I want to do? I want to barely write this story. Okay, write that on the back.
Fair enough.
If you receive the eye of a cat, the candle will go out. I'm not sure what happens after that.
I didn't want to write that either.
Who are you that you even know that happens then, man? Sometimes they're never heard from again. Other times, when a new adventurous soul ventures inside to see the genie, the dead man or woman might be you. So it sounds like you do know what happens when I'm given the cat eye, actually. It's that I die.
Oh. Well, I
Why
hope
even-
I get the cat eye.
Dude, I can't.
Oh.
I love, dude, I'm losing my shit. I can't believe we read 3 stories and none of them were really a story.
Yep.
They were all approaching. The first one was just not.
Remember when I said I wanted to give you the most authentic Lotsa pasta experience?
Ugh.
You said to me, I remember you saying this, Ramses. We started recording and you said, "Hey, Captain Death, what would this show used to be like back in the beginning?" And I said, "Well, young Ramses, even though we're the same age, I believe, the show back in the beginning was just kind of a lot of horse shit. And we just read a lot of horse shit and jumped from horse shit to horse shit as the story. Nope, wouldn't even describe it as a story, as something someone wrote and put online. Just kind of goes on until it ends. And we read it."
Wow. Well, it is my great sadness to announce that the next story appears
is not
to be a story.
The next
and is
story
not
appears to be
recommended
a
by
story,
Danny.
and it is also not recommended by Danny. But I'm at a point in the episode now where I'm now seeing how many times this document mentions the word Danny, and I'm just gonna
Did you just control it,
I'm
Danny?
gonna look and see if there are any more suggestions by Danny. And there are.
Yeah, there's a 2-page one.
There's actually a lot. There's actually
8.
there's quite a bit actually. I don't necessarily want to dovetail the entire episode and go down
you don't have to.
and go down the Danny trail. But I'm not gonna lie to say that I'm fucking tempted to just derail our entire episode and just start reading things Danny recommended.
I'm just obsessed. I'm sorry. I get I dive in easily. Once I start sensing a theme, I start sniffing something weird going on.
Oh shit.
The Dollmaster, it's like it starts like the same way. That's crazy.
I'm looking.
Have you ever heard of the Dollmaster? No? Well, and I guess it's like that's a function of these are supposed to be like kind of oral, off the cuff, like casual stories to make them feel more real. But it is funny how many of them start with like, "Do you know the thing I'm about to tell you?" Well, if you don't, oh boy.
Here's what we're gonna do.
We don't have to. We can totally just do the list that we have. I need to let you know that. We follow your heart on this one. I'll have a great time regardless.
There's I'm legitimately at a fork in the road because part of me just thinks it would be funnier to continue reading these shitty stories that Danny found. I'm trying to add up the length to make sure it's equivalent.
Doing some quick math, yeah.
All right, this is Danny. This is now officially Danny's Halloween special.
Welcome to Danny Ween, everybody.
We have decided right here and right now that we are going to change this entire episode as we had it planned and instead just read things Danny has sent us. Which, shout out to Danny. I don't know if you still listen to the show, bud, because we haven't spoken in a while. But this episode's for you. This one's a dedication to you because you're just the right kind of person to find just the right amount of terrible stories online. I truly appreciate it. And I think I want to keep it moving quickly So I'm gonna read what's called Neighbors.
I'm there.
This week I moved into a new house. This house itself is lovely with 2 stories, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a fenced-in backyard, and a big kitchen. The tree in the front yard is tall and strong and does a fine job of blocking my living room windows from the street. The water pressure is fabulous. The closets are large and the wood floors are new. The only problem I've had so far is that my neighbors are rather loud. Our houses connect on one side, so we share a living room, bedroom, and kitchen wall. All day long, I hear them banging around their kitchen, watching loud movies, talking, and their small child crying. It's a bit trying.
A Reddit moment.
But nothing I can't live with, I suppose. Now, to get directly to the thing that really concerns me, thank you. It started when I was in the shower this morning. I usually like to have music playing I usually like to have music playing while I shower, but today I decided that I'd rather just enjoy the silence. The activity was fairly uneventful until, as I was in the middle of washing my hair, I heard my neighbors talking from the other side of the wall. I couldn't make out what they were saying, but it sounded strange to me. It seemed that they were mumbling something, whispering, and occasionally laughing quietly. But I couldn't figure out how I could hear them if they were evidently speaking quietly. I thought that they must be standing absurdly close to their side of the wall in order to be so audible in the midst of a shower. I didn't think too much of the incident until I was leaving for work an hour later, and as I started to open my car door, I turned back to the house feeling like I'd forgotten something. And as I looked up at my bedroom window, I realized that the neighbor's house shares a wall on the opposite side of the house from my bathroom. On the other side of my bathroom lies my bedroom closet. That's actually kind of creepy. I'm not gonna lie. That one actually kind of got me a little bit. Because it's the whole when a stranger calls, the call is coming from inside the house.
So it's a bait and switch.
The small realization that what you've been afraid of the entire time is right under your nose, and you just haven't seen it. It's actually.
I will say, I can't hear shit when I'm in the shower. Even if they're in the same house as me, if someone's whispering in a different room, catch me not knowing about it, because I will not hear that shit at all.
I think that's the point, though, is that you're in the shower, you're distracted. It's obviously making enough noise, whether you have great water pressure or not. If you hear someone talking like they're right fucking next to you, I feel like that's super unsettling. Whether or not, even the psycho aspect of being at your most vulnerable when you're naked and in the shower, but hearing someone talk and just being like, well, what are my neighbors talking about that's so important? And then you realize, where could the talking have been coming from other than in my side of the house? Which is, like I said.
Yeah, congrats, Danny. You gave us one unsettling moment, and this is good.
At least one unsettling moment in a Halloween special dedicated to you. So, hopefully, what we read next is worse. I'm gonna let you read My Music Box.
My Music Box. This is also a creepypasta. Goes without saying who recommended it. In June of 2007, 14 paranormal investigators were dispatched to a farmhouse in the countryside outside of Omaha, Nebraska. They arrived the evening of June 15th and set up their equipment, planning an overnight stay. They brought audio recorders, video recorders, and sensors to alert them to unusually high electromagnetic or ultrasonic signal. brief question, genuine question. What is an ultrasonic signal? What is that? Anything? Is that anything?
Is that saying like ultrasound? Like,
I guess
like what we don't hear to a different degree?
Yeah, I just feel like if it can be recorded, it's still sonic, but I guess sonic depends on you hearing it. You know what? Not important. The investigators only picked up a few odd noises, but they happened upon a stash of 19th century memorabilia tucked away in a corner of the attic. The owner had not seen the artifacts. Among them were several clothing items, including a Confederate soldier's jacket, jewelry, and a music box. The music box was the most valuable item. A historian later dated it to 1842, and it still played I Dream of Jeannie when it was opened. Okay, that song must be a lot older than I'm thinking.
Yeah, it must be older than the show, which is what I thought that came from. So
which was the 1960s. So
right.
Yeah, the historian recommended the music box be placed into a Civil War museum, and the property owner agreed, along with the clothing and jewelry items. The music box resided in the Midwest wing of the museum. Many historians interested in American memorabilia from the Civil War era came to view it and make notes about its unusual design. The top of the music box was rounded and studded with clear gems, which the curator of the museum said were diamonds. The bottom of the box was blue with metal points sticking out. It was quite an unusual design for its time period, which made the historians even more interested in it. According to security footage, on the night of December 4th, 2008, the music box popped open, seemingly of its own accord. The music played as usual. Unexpectedly, red smoke began to pour out of the music box, soon engulfing the entire room. A shadowy figure having the shape of a clown could be seen in one corner. I'm going to be honest, I didn't think clown was going to show up in this story.
It
lost
me in the last two sentences.
Yeah, I really didn't think we were going with a clown. Do you think this Confederate soldier also was into clowning? Something to think about, I guess. A security guard. It's just, hold that image in your mind. Sort of Confederate clown. A security guard came upon the scene, and on the tape can be seen passing out. The shadowy figure stands over him, kneels, and then stands again and walks away. Later,
teabags him and then runs away.
he clicks the stick in a few times and then fucking BXBs and moonwalks out of the room. Later, after paramedics revived him, the security guard would state that he recalled nothing of the incident.
This is another story where someone sat down and said, I'm going to write about something, and then did, and then got to the end and said, but
that's
how
the end of the story?
But how do I end the story?
That's the end of the story?
And that's the end of the story. I
have so many questions. I thought this was a multiple-page story.
No.
What do you mean?
No,
so now I'm wondering, is I Dream of Jeannie actually an older song or not?
Are you taking it to the Google? Because I would like to know the answer.
I am going to Google this because I don't understand.
On Danny's Halloween episode, we have questions. All right, and we need answers.
All right, I Dream of Jeannie song, 1800s. I'm getting nothing. Jeannie with the light brown hair is a parlor song from 1854.
Still later.
Sure. It has the name Jeannie in it. I'm so fucking confused on this one. I'm not gonna. A clown shows up, teabags a guy, and that's it. That's it. The whole Confederate angle was completely a ruse, but not a ruse for any particular purpose.
This is the beguiling nature of a story picked by Danny. I'm also going to read a very quick one-page story called "The Dollmaster," which I'm very excited about.
Yeah, please go.
Have you ever heard of the Dollmaster? Have you, Ramses, heard of the Dollmaster?
No, I have not.
Well, you probably heard him or his creations without even knowing it.
Oh.
Long
Okay.
ago when you were a kid.
That makes sense. I don't remember any of my childhood, so I'll take you on your word.
You know those nights when you're lying in bed unable to sleep, and you know that it's really late because you've already heard your parents go to sleep as well? And without
they
the
saying-
faint... That was a question. And without the faint sound of them talking or watching TV downstairs, you suddenly realize how quiet the house can be. That wasn't a question. With nothing else to focus on, you can only listen to the deep, endless silence. A silence that awakens more fear than the loudest growl or the most wicked laughter possibly could.
This person lived in new construction, because let me tell you, even when nobody was moving in my house back home, shit was happening. The house was making noises.
Shit was happening.
It was a not silence. Couldn't be.
When the house I grew up in as a kid was very old, and we had like mice and squirrels and stuff in our walls and in our attic fucking all the time.
Yeah, so there's got to be some scratching, some creaking, always.
The faintest sounds, such as your cat jumping down from a cabinet or desk, or the wind causing your house to creak, can make your imagination run wild and think of ghosts stalking the hall, or a giant monster shaking the house to its foundation. That's when you can hear his creations sing. Now, since you're still alive, I hope, and reading this, that means you were the type of kid who gave into his or her fears and hid under the sheets, or the type of kid who could shrug it off and continue trying to get some sleep, or perhaps the type of kid who would seek comfort with his or her parents or older siblings. You have escaped his clutches. Congratulations. But if you know any brave children, any fearless, curious children, warn them. Because if they are brave enough, they will follow the singing. They will follow it to wherever he has made his lair, probably in an old attic, basement, or storage room. He prefers dusty old places where adults don't come often. This is because they will find him. He will be waiting for them in the furthest corner of whatever place he has made his lair, lurking on the ceiling with his 6 long, spidery legs. But the kid won't see him. The dolls will have captivated it. Such is their power. They will sit there, singing and smiling to it, their faces awfully human-like, as if they weren't even made of wood in the first place. Yet, when the child comes closer, they will see the tears running down their cheeks and notice the sadness in the eyes contradicting the smile. By then, the Dollmaster is already above the child, one pair of hands coordinating the undead choir with hardly visible strings. The other pair of thin, skeletal arms extended, its hands decorated with pitch-black talons reaching towards the child. If the child looks up, all it will see is the wildly grinning mouth filled with crooked yellow teeth and his pitch-black reflective eyes. A raspy, ghoulish voice will then speak the next words. Now you will sing too.
And then he teabags you. You don't remember any of it.
And then runs out of the room in a red mist.
Okay. All right.
Apparently that'll happen, and you'll have to listen to it. Nothing bad happens after that. I know we described him as kind of creepy with skeleton limbs and talons and shit. He's just gonna sing to you. They don't end the story. You then go back to your room and you go to sleep and you grow up and you do your taxes and you get a 401k just like anyone else.
Yeah. This just sounds like a sort of like a choir director with some physical deformities. I don't feel like we should be,
what's he doing in your
guy.
house for one? Fair enough.
Well, sure, fine, whatever.
But
But he needs a house too, right? And I can't imagine getting a loan when you have got 6 spidery legs and live on the ceiling is very easy. So fair play to him for. I mean, he sounds like he keeps mostly quiet. You only hear him when the house is perfectly quiet. And he's not like eating your food, it seems like. Does he eat? even? Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows
I
what
don't
the
know.
diet of the Dollmaster is?
Can't be children.
No, definitely not.
No.
That doesn't make sense.
I don't get that at all. Doesn't sound like him to me. I know the guy.
I want you to read A Small Piece of Lead.
A Small Piece of Lead. This one's a little bit longer. I'm preparing myself.
We're gonna finish with 2 long ones.
Cool. Preparing myself because that first short one, the teabagging clown one, I was really caught off guard by the fact that it just ended.
Well, I hope this time we have a lot of build-up, and I hope the last page throws all of that build-up away and still has a red mist with a clown that teabags you and runs away. So, you know, in my heart of hearts, I'm still hoping for it.
You've said before that there's like a very common like troll like joke ending to stories where like there's just a skeleton in a closet, right?
Correct.
I do think it would be infinitely better if it always ended with a
clown
teabagging
pops out
clown
and teabags you and then
runs away. Yeah. Okay. A Small Piece of Lead. It opens with a quote. "A million years later, I feel like apologizing for the human race. That's all I can say." Kurt Vonnegut. "It was such a small thing, insignificant in the grand scheme of it all. It was hardly worth any focus or attention. Enough about me, though. The bullet was... Okay.
Off to a great start.
Ooh. Enough about me, though. The bullet was small, too. In a different sense, I guess. What, in the real sense? In the actual sense of being
In the
small?
actual sense.
Yeah. To be honest, I didn't even feel it when it first tore through my chest. The first thing I noticed was the damage it had done to my book. I had been walking down the street reading the last few pages of Dead-Eye Dick. It was just at the part about Will Fairchild's parachute, or lack thereof, when it happened. I'm going to say it. This person assumes I know way more about the book Dead-Eye Dick than I actually do.
I was walking down the street reading I Like Dick.
There was a loud bang! But before I could even register the sound, the pages of the book I'd been reading exploded outward and spilled onto the street. What the fuck did he get shot with? The fucking Barrett 50 cal?
Say 12 gauge shotgun.
Jesus Christ. People scattered, but I was too busy reaching for the pages before the wind could steal them away from me. I sank to my knees and reached for the papers, but for some reason, I couldn't breathe. At first, I thought it was a car backfiring, but when I looked up, I saw the gun withdrawing into the SUV that was speeding away. It wasn't until I looked down and saw the hole in my chest that I connected all the dots.
I want you to read this next line as dramatically and as intense as you possibly can.
I had been shot.
Thank you.
The last thought that went through my head was, the book. How did it end?
I'll never figure out the end of Dead-Eye Dick.
No. As far as last thoughts go, it was a bit lackluster. I hadn't really thought profoundly on what my last thought should have been, but I was hoping for something a little more poignant to come forward in that moment. I collapsed onto my face and was dead within seconds. So it goes. Oh, this guy's a big Vonnegut fan, huh? My story should have ended there, out on the pavement with blood spilling out of me, but it didn't. You could call it unresolved issues binding me to this mortal coil, but I think it was really just interest. I wanted to see what happened next. I chose to follow the path of Leon Trotsky Trout and watch the world continue on without me. I died there, but I didn't stop existing. I watched as police cordoned off the area with tape and tried to discourage rubberneckers. It didn't work. The sidewalk was soon crowded with people trying to see over the shoulders of the police that were on the scene. The police tried to get witness statements, but nobody had anything noteworthy to say. They saw a black car speeding off, and that was it. So, according to this guy, you become a ghost not from the sort of like unresolved trauma or any of that, but just because
you want to hang out. Yeah,
there's got to be the amount of autistic ghosts must be sky high.
I'm just want to watch TV.
I haven't learned every train that exists yet.
Dragon Ball Z reruns are on at 3:30.
Oh my God. My Cities Skyline game isn't quite done yet, so I am going to stick around as a ghost for a while. The weight of it all slammed down on me like 1,000 bricks. I was dead. I lingered there for a few hours, trying to make sense of it all, but I couldn't piece it together. How did this happen? How could this happen? I had so much I wanted to do, so much I needed to do. I had a family. I broke down only a few feet away from my body. It was then, while I was crying, that I shifted. One moment, I was lying in the street, curled up in the fetal position. The next moment, I was in my house. I don't know how much time had passed. I assumed a couple of days, judging by the house's appearance. It looked disheveled. Dust had begun to form, and the counters were cluttered. I began to look for my parents, wondering if there was some way I could communicate with them. I spent a few weeks with them. I kept hoping that they would come to some form of acceptance about my death, or at least move on. They didn't. I screamed at them. I begged for them to hear me, supplicated to God for some reprieve. Nothing. I could only watch them as they attempted to cope with the loss of their only son. My dad, who was such a quiet man, was now belligerent. The smallest things seemed to set him off. A call during dinner, stupid plot twists on a television show. Even something as small as stubbing his toe on the coffee table resulted in a violent outburst. He shouted, spat, swore. He was so angry at everything, at the world, and himself. There was nothing left of him except a seething mass of anger at the injustice of the world. My mom was even worse. It was as if the bullet that had torn through my chest had pierced her heart as well. Poetic. She moved around the house with sunken eyes that were bloodshot, afraid to set off my dad. She tried to keep herself together around him, but it was obvious to both of them that she was nowhere near okay. She cried and spent most of her free time in my room, curled up on my bed and weeping. My room had become a shrine, with my mother being the only supplicant. Nothing in my room was touched. Nothing was moved. She spent hours crying into my bedspread when she knew my dad was out. It served as a monument to her all-encompassing sadness. I tried so hard to make my words reach her, but they were as insubstantial as the wind. I wanted to tear my room apart, hurl my Vonnegut books against the wall, anything to ease some of my frustration, but there was nothing I could do. There was nothing I could do. It was nothing. I left them a few days later. I couldn't stand to be in that mausoleum any longer. I couldn't stand to see my father spend another day consumed by his rage at the injustice of the world, or another night of my mother crying herself to sleep, curled up with a toy I used to play with. I couldn't bear another second with them as they spiraled into depression. Call me weak if you want, but my only option was to run. I couldn't help them, and I had no intention of seeing them self-destruct. It was then that I made up my mind about what I needed to do. I could visit my friends, but chances were good that it would only make me more depressed. I could visit the girls I had a crush on and never told, but what would be the point of that? I had to find him. I had to find the man who shot me from that black SUV and left my parents emotionally crippled. At the time, I didn't know what my intentions were, but now I think I knew what I wanted to happen all along. I wanted justice. I wanted retribution. He didn't know that at first. He knew. This is crazy.
It's a little meandering, but I'll give it to him.
I just think spending weeks hanging around the parents' house before even thinking of trying to find your killer is wild. I would try to kill that man immediately. It didn't take too long to find him. I don't know if it was some bond we shared or just dumb luck. I mused to myself that Vonnegut must have been right when he proposed the Bokanist idea of a cuirass in his book Cat's Cradle. This man and I were intrinsically linked. As soon as I saw him, I knew that I would be with him until the day he died. He looked nothing like I imagined. If anything, he was younger than I was. He looked like he wasn't a day over 16. He even had acne, for God's sake. He was thin and lived in an apartment complex with his mother. She was a single mom, and so she spent most of her time at work, giving him free reign of their tiny apartment. He spent most of his time in his room listening to rap. I spent most of the day watching him in confusion. How could this teenager have killed me? For what reasons did he have to pull the trigger? Stopping very briefly, I feel like the story is going to go in a way that I'm not going to like immediately.
And what brings you to that conclusion?
I'm getting big. This character is a nerd vibes, and he is now found his killer who is listening to rap, which is confusing him. So it feels vaguely racially tinged. I don't know if he's going to go in that direction with it, but it kind of feels. I spent my first week there following him everywhere and watching him, waiting to see some form of remorse or regret for his actions. He gave no indication that my death had impacted him in any way. He hung out with his friends who looked like a bunch of suburban teenagers playing at being gangsters. Okay, I'm feeling a little bit vindicated. There was one interaction that's been burned into my memory. He had a friend over, and they were both in his room, crowded around his window, taking turns passing a joint back and forth. With each inhalation, both erupted in a flurry of coughs, betraying their obvious attempts to mask their inexperience. When they were both sufficiently stoned, his friend started in on him about the drive-by. How did it feel to pull the trigger? Come on. Come on, N-word. A statement made awkward considering that they were both lily white. It was just a twitch of the finger, nothing more. But you could get caught. I mean, you killed... My murderer interrupted. Cops ain't gonna do shit. Just another drive-by. Just another typical Sunday. As for the punk I capped, his dumb ass was in the wrong place at the wrong time. It was all part of initiation, right? Now the others will know we're serious. That was the end of it. Oh. Do you like my instincts? I feel like they're so on point.
I can't help but agree with you, but I did get a little bit ahead of you, and I saw that point coming, and I was just like, God damn, he's gonna feel justified.
Yeah, no, I scrolled to the next page and I saw the N-word, and I was like, well, okay.
That was actually the first thing I saw as well. So
kind of sticks out on the page. All right, that was the end of it. They tried their best to air the pot smell out of the room, but the words he spoke hung around me like a malicious miasma. His words echoed around in my brain, beating and tearing into me. I made myself a promise as I stood watching them joke and laugh. I would return the favor.
See, this is actually kind of cool, though. The whole I'm gonna poltergeist these kids. If that's where it goes, I might be into it.
I would drill my words into him like a bullet through his chest. Every night, as he lay in bed, I glided up to his sleeping form. I bent down and whispered in his ear. I whispered of the horrible fate that awaited him. I murmured my murderous machinations to him throughout the night. I intimated my intentions of what I was going to do to him once he died and entered my plane of existence. I was going to tear him apart, limb from limb and piece by piece. I was going to turn his afterlife into hell because I couldn't impact him in this life.
Well, that's sad.
Yeah. I whispered throughout the night to his sleeping form. Much like my previous attempts at communication, it failed. He gave no indication of having heard me, but that didn't stop me from doing it. It was a cruel compulsion. It gave me a reason to exist. I spent the day haunting him and thinking of wretched words to whisper to him at night. The change was almost imperceptible at first. I'd been whispering his sins into his ears for a week now and was just about to give up and resign myself to my fate when it happened. On the 8th night, my killer rolled over in his sleep, and I heard the faintest sound. It sounded like a whimper, some pained response to my tireless labors. That one action, that small sound, caused me to redouble my effort. Was I able to reach him somehow? I had managed to intimate a message to someone. I was ecstatic. Maybe with time I could learn to control this gift. I had to keep talking to him. I had to keep tormenting him. The thought never crossed my mind to return to my parents and attempt to form some sort of reconciliation or help them move on. I was too busy with the man who'd put me in this position. I think that's my greatest regret in all of this. I had an opportunity to try to help my parents move on, but instead I chose to torment my killer. As time went on, he began to sleep more fitfully. He would toss and turn as my words echoed unheard into his ears. He began eating less and less. He would pick at his food, enough to trick his mother into believing that he was eating. He began to grow thin. Still, I whispered my midnight maledictions to him. This guy has got to chill with the alliteration.
He's looking at a thesaurus and he's saying, what next?
Calm down with the alliteration. He stopped hanging out with his wannabe gangster friends. He became withdrawn and stopped speaking to people as he grew more and more morose. Still, I whispered my curses and invectives. He would sneak off at times during the day, wiping away tears. At night, he would break down, crying into his pillow in an attempt to smother the sound. Still, I whispered. He wasn't the only one that was beginning to crumble away. My metamorphosis began as something almost imperceptible. Okay. It started with my skin beginning to crack. Tiny fissures spread along my flesh, revealing decaying tissue underneath. My skin turned mottled and gray. Couldn't see my entire body, but I was certain that if I could, it'd be similar to that of a moldering corpse. I reasoned that it was an effect of my body decomposing. My ghostly form was still linked to my body in some way, and so as it rotted, so did my current form. I wondered what would happen to me if enough time passed. Would I be reduced to mummified remains, or would the worms pick me apart, leaving me a skeleton? Either way didn't matter to me. I was too busy tormenting him. I wouldn't stop. Couldn't stop. I continued my malevolent midnight mantras to him for two more weeks before the end came. I had started, because I don't think he's joking. I think he thinks it's like really cool that he's doing the alliteration.
He's being very Vincent Price dramatic.
It's something. It's fun to say. I continued my malevolent midnight mantras to him for 2 more weeks before the end came. I had started whispering to him at all hours of the day by then. He hadn't left his room at all that weekend. He just sat in darkness as I told him my hatred of him and how it would be better if he died. Upon uttering those words, the floodgates shattered. My words couldn't reach him, but maybe my sentiments did. I mean, it feels like your words reached him, man. I don't know. He shot up from his bed.
It's just the fact that he's like willing this into existence.
Yeah.
You know? It's the energy aspect. They say that like spirits, you know, you watch any ghost hunter type show, they always say they describe it as an energy, like a feeling.
Sure.
You know? So that's what I'm thinking. Like the talking might be more for him.
Yeah.
Getting himself worked up in this space.
I can buy that. He shot up from his bed as if galvanized and began tearing down posters, throwing his stuff around the room, and venting his emotions. His mom heard the commotion and began knocking on the door. He ran across the room and locked the door before she could open it. She asked him what was wrong, and that was when he began his confession. The words spilled out of him like blood from a bullet hole. He wept. I killed him. I didn't mean to. They said I had to do something to prove I wanted into the gang, that I would be willing to do anything for them. I thought if I pulled the trigger but missed him, it would be good enough. But it was an accident. I swear I didn't mean to shoot him. I didn't. Oh, God. I could almost hear the gears in her brain turning to try to connect the dots. It only took a few seconds before there was a loud thud on the other side of the door as she collapsed under the weight of his revelation, her breath stolen away from her. He began tearing apart his closet, looking for something. He found it and returned to the bed, cradling the object like it was a precious gift. The gun looked heavy in his grip, almost comically large in his small hands. He sat down and thumbed the safety off. I was surprised he could even manage that through his tears. He turned the gun back and forth in his hands, as if trying to figure something out. He must have reached a conclusion because he took a deep breath, wiped away his tears, and spoke. "I'm sorry, Mom." A quote from Cat's Cradle reverberated through my mind upon hearing those words. Now I will destroy the whole world. Dude, this guy's special interest is Kurt Vonnegut. In the story.
I want to say something, but I'm gonna wait until the very end.
Okay. Was this what I wanted? He turned the barrel towards himself and raised it to his head. He wrapped his lips around the cold steel, and I could hear his teeth chattering and clicking against the barrel. The sound of the hammer being fanned back brought everything into a twisted and sobering light. He was going to kill himself. I should have felt happy, but all I felt was sickness in my stomach. Felt like there was something lodged in my throat, but no amount of swallowing could dislodge it. I didn't want to see this. I didn't want to know that I had caused all of this. I turned to leave, but there was something in my way. It stood in front of the door and blocked off my retreat. The being was hard to describe. The Best explanation I could give was it was staticky and blurry. I couldn't make out a definite form, but it seemed vaguely humanoid in appearance. The air around it shimmered like I was looking at hot asphalt on a desert road. I didn't have much time to examine it, as it spoke as soon as it was sure I had seen it. It's too late to turn away now. Watch what happens next, knowing that there is little to no difference between him pulling the trigger and you. I am the subtext. Let me tell you what is happening in the story. Jesus, man.
Even death is just a cunt.
I felt myself being turned towards the boy on the bed. I didn't see the entity move, but I felt it exerting its influence over me. Couldn't turn away. I watched as he struggled to breathe around the gun in his mouth. His mother's wailing drowned out his whimpering. He closed his eyes, and I knew what was coming next. I couldn't turn away. I couldn't shut my eyes. He squeezed the trigger. I stood over his body. He was pitched back over the bed. There was a small dribble of blood coming from the wound. He twitched spasmodically as the last little spark of his life he had in him was extinguished. I heard his mother ramming the door in an attempt to break through and reach him. It was too late for him. He was gone. It was too late for me as well. The staticky figure approached me, and I knew that my time here was almost done. I had just had one last question I wanted to ask. How did it end? I meant the book Dead Eye Dick. After all this time, I still wanted to know. The transparent being shifted, and although I couldn't see its face, I knew that it was smiling. It told me how it ended, and I wept bitter tears. I told the thing that I was ready. His form shifted with what I assumed was a nod. I was ready to leave this world. I felt myself floating up, and I let myself be taken. I sank into myself and began to weep again. I thought I wanted revenge, but this all felt wrong. I had just taken his life, just like he had taken mine. The only difference between us was intention. He hadn't meant to kill me. I had wanted to kill him. The being tried to carry me, but it wasn't long before I felt myself sinking through its embrace. My soul was far too heavy to be carried. I wish I could say that the years passed by in the blink of an eye, but that wouldn't be the truth. They dragged by slowly. I suffered under each crawling hour. I filled the first few years watching my parents unable to do anything as they self-destructed. I thought the news of my killer's confession would bring some form of solace to them, but it didn't. If anything, it only made matters worse. My father began drinking himself into oblivion. He would stay out all hours of the night and wouldn't return home until he could barely walk. Sometimes he would pick a fight at the bar in an attempt to forget about what happened to me. It never worked. His last moments were actually in the alley behind a bar 4 years after my death. Picked a fight with a kid who he unjustly blamed for his shortcomings. The man laid him out in the alley with a single punch and left him there. As he was faced first on the concrete, he drowned in his own sick. My mother's end was no better. The news of my father's death was too much for her. She survived a few months after his death, but her heart wasn't in it. She swallowed a bottle of pain medication left over from an old surgery. She spent her last moments on my bed waiting to overdose with an old sweater I used to wear across her lap. As the end approached, she reached out as if she could see me standing a few feet away from her. She couldn't. If she did, she would have cried out in terror. I had deteriorated so much by that point that I wasn't even recognizable. My stomach had become tumescent, my flesh began weeping a milky substance. My eyes had completely withered in my head, but I could still see. My skin has become leathery and cracked, but I can still feel. The worst part of it all is that I know I'm stuck here. The afterlife has been barred to me. I'm trapped here, left to watch the world that I no longer care about. It took me a few more years to figure it out. By this time, all my friends had passed away, and I had nothing to occupy my time except my thoughts. I finally figured out why I looked this way. It had nothing to do with my corpse. My appearance was directly impacted by my interaction with the boy who killed me. It wasn't due to my body decomposing. It was my soul rotting. And we end with a quote by, you'll never guess, You want to know something? We are still in the Dark Ages. The Dark Ages, they haven't ended yet. Kurt Vonnegut. Parentheses, last line of Dead-Eye Dick. Okay. You know what? Of all the stories thus far, this is the most competently constructed and was only at times incredibly ham-fisted.
It's trying because it is heavy-handed in everything that it does. It's heavy-handed in how it's written. It's heavy-handed in the story it's telling. It's handy-handed in the dramatic movement. It is as heavy-handed as a soap opera, which is why approximately halfway through, I was surprised when you weren't doing a Tommy Wiseau voice for goodbye, cruel world.
Yeah, I was tempted,
Lisa,
but I had started.
Why, Lisa?
I think because of the non-story nature of so many of the stories you read today.
Yeah.
The fact that I read the first paragraph of this and was like, "Oh, this person has written a narrative story before," I was like, "I'll do the voice for this."
We're gonna finish out the episode. I'm gonna read one last longer story here. I'm gonna read The Painting, which this has been a full creepypasta episode, mind you. We've read creepypasta after creepypasta, and I did not expect that to happen tonight. I really didn't. There's so little creepypasta that I have left in this entire fucking catalog of stories that we might have just like taken out half of what I had left. Maybe even all of it, maybe even more, but who knows? This has been a creepypasta Halloween. More specifically, Danny's creepypasta Halloween. So again, cheers to Danny. I'm going to finish off with The Painting. When I was 7 years old, my 10-year-old brother Jamie was kidnapped, or so they say. No, what do they say? Was he kidnapped, or did he just fuck off? The police claimed whoever had taken him was professional in doing so. Okay.
Huh.
They were a professional kidnapper? Okay.
So they were paid?
I don't know that if they just mean that they were skillful.
Yeah.
Covered their tracks.
Some real pros.
That I had been incredibly lucky to have not been taken as well. They described the kidnapper in this way because no fingerprints were ever found on any of the furniture. My brother had never made a sound at the time. And most importantly, there was no sign of a break-in at all. None of the windows had been broken. The doors weren't busted. Nothing. Which is why I think the so they say. Because this sounds to me that the brother just fucking left.
Yeah.
That's a professional. That's a professional movement right there. Just deciding to get up and fucking leave.
Yeah. Did the kid run away, or was he taken by actual ninjas? We're thinking ninjas.
we're leaning towards Ra's al Ghul's shadow assassins. Several days before his disappearance, my father found a painting while rummaging around in the attic. He had been trying to find his old bass guitar after I had asked him if he played any instruments. Turns out he used to play in a band with some friends, and he was pretty decent. His group was called Serrated Edge.
Awesome band name.
Unfortunately, after an hour of searching for the guitar, which was never found, he found the painting. It had been placed against a wall, surrounded by boxes. My father had noticed the golden frame glinting as he walked around. Mm-hmm. The painting itself was magnificent when he lowered it down. It seemed to be in good condition despite being in the attic for so long. There was a house in the picture, large gray house surrounded by grass. In the background, a cliff could be seen, and then a sudden drop which evened out to an ocean. It stretched on into the distance. Some birds could be seen up above circling the house. On the back were scrawled some words in red ink that read, Gadel I bin I hun, which my mother recognized as Welsh, and I fucking botched, so good luck with my audio translation of what I just said. But we didn't know at the time what it meant or, what language it was. My brother and I weren't very ecstatic about having it as a new house decoration, but my father loved its simplicity. He decided to put it up in our bedroom. I don't think I've said this on an episode with you, but I've said this on other episodes of the show. I read a story, I'm going to say it was for episode 44, about a painting that just ruins a man's life, and how I loved that fucking story, and that when I was editing it at like 3 o'clock in the morning in my bedroom alone in a house that I was watching, I actually got spooked listening to it. So I don't notably do good with paintings. Dorian Gray fucked me up. So I'll just say I'm already enjoying this for the most peculiar of reasons.
Okay.
That night we had dinner as usual, spaghetti I believe, then my brother and I went upstairs for bed. We both shared the same room. We were slightly afraid of the dark, so our door was left ajar most days, letting some of the light in. After getting changed into our pajamas and joking around for a bit, we both settled down to sleep. It was around 2 a.m. when I awoke. I realized I was hot, sweaty, pulled myself into a sitting position. Jamie was in his own bed to my left, sleeping soundly. My throat was parched, so I figured I'd get a drink of water. I pulled myself out of bed sheets and left the room as quietly as possible, creaking the door open. Slowly I crept down the hall, conscious that the floorboards creaked. The last thing I wanted to do was wake everyone up. I headed to the bathroom. When I returned, I was refreshed. And pulled myself back into bed. I pretty much stood my head under the tap and lapped up water like a cat, cupping it into my hands and splashing my face. As I pulled myself back into bed, I noticed something odd about the painting on the wall. There seemed to be a black smudge to the right of the house, something I had not noticed earlier. Curiously, I pulled myself back to my feet and approached the painting, as I couldn't quite make it out properly in the dark. On closer inspection, I gathered that the smudge was some sort of man, and it resembled a human, but was completely black. It looked like it was standing stationary, looking outwards. Its head was cocked ever so slightly to one side. I considered waking Jamie to show him the mysterious figure, but decided he'd be cranky if I did, so I waited until morning. I retreated to my bed. When morning arrived, the figure was gone, to my dismay. I told Jamie about it, but he didn't seem to believe me. And for the rest of the day, I watched the painting suspiciously, believing that it may appear again at any moment. It didn't. As a spoiler for the story that I read before, in that story as well, it's a story about a painting of a hallway in a hotel. It has 5 doors, and one day this dude looks back at it, and it has a 6th door, and he's wondering what's going on. As he looks away and looks back at it, a man slowly starts to come out of the door and look down the hallway, and every time he looks away and looks back at it, the man is closer.
Sure.
That's the story in its essence, but they describe the man as shrouded in black. So naturally, that's of course what carries over in this story as well. I'm not saying that this story aped the shit out of that other story.
This is what he's saying.
I am saying that is the context here. But I'm hoping it doesn't, because that story is better at what it does. As my brother and I were climbing back into bed that night, I had forgotten about the figure. That is, until the same thing happened again. Just as before, I woke in the early hours of the morning, soaked in sweat, and this time I anticipated the figure's arrival, glanced at the painting straight away. I felt a twinge of fear. The smudge was there again, but it had moved, and it doubled in size. It has adopted a new position right in front of the house, a few meters away from the front door. Instead of going over for a closer inspection, I forced myself to go back to sleep, hoping with every fiber of my being that I was dreaming. And that night I fell asleep shaking in fear. The next day was uneventful. I avoided the painting for the most part, spending time in the living room downstairs watching TV. I mentioned about the dark figure to my parents that day, and of course, they didn't believe me. "You were just dreaming, Harry, that's all," they told me. This was the last day I ever spent with my brother. That night I had awoken at the similar time again, around 2 a.m. I can't remember exactly what time. 2 a.m., I just said it. With dread and fear churning in my stomach, I reluctantly glanced at the painting, and it was completely black. I remember physically shaking in terror, believing that if I made the slightest noise, I would trigger something. And slowly I pulled myself out from under the bed sheets. I crept over to the bedroom door and then ran over to the bathroom, the floorboards creaking as I went. I locked myself inside. I figured I'd stay here until morning, and then asked my father to put the painting back in the attic the next day. There was obviously something wrong with it. I just didn't know what. The other story that I am cutting away to about mentioning every single time, that same exact thing happens. What happened next will stay with me for as long as I live. After several minutes of waiting in the bathroom, I heard the floorboards creak in the hall outside. At first, I had thought my brother had woken up, disturbed by my footsteps running down the hall. The creaking was approaching the bathroom and stopped just outside the door. "Jamie?" I whispered. No response. I knew someone was standing right on the other side of the door. I just couldn't figure out what they were trying to do. Did they need to use the bathroom? "Mom," I said. To this I heard a scratching sound on the other side of the door, as if someone was dragging their fingers across. I backed away terrified, and after a moment, whoever it was walked away, their footsteps creaking their way toward my room. The next day I awoke in the bathtub to the sound of banging. It was my father. He was thumping the door with his fist. "Harry, Jamie, are you in there?" he snapped. I answered it slowly, stiff from lying in such an uncomfortable position. Apparently this morning when my parents had awoken, they had found our room empty. My mom went downstairs to find us, and my dad looked around upstairs. "Is your brother in there with you?" he had asked when I opened the door, and I shook my head, but he didn't believe me. He pushed past, searching the room. It was only another half hour of searching that my parents began to panic. The police were called around. Everyone was convinced someone had broken into the house and taken him in the night. The police believed I had locked myself in the bathroom to hide from the kidnapper out of fear, and they questioned me relentlessly about whether I had seen his face. I couldn't answer. There was something else. On the outside of the bathroom door, there were 3 deep gauges, diagonal, top left to bottom right. The police believed they were caused by a knife repeatedly dragging across its surface. They claimed the kidnapper had been trying to get me as well, but had thankfully given in. Our house was closed off for several days, and we were provided with a hotel while the police searched for fingerprints or any sign of breaking and entering. As I said at the start, they found nothing. When we finally returned to our home, my parents were a teary mess. They moped around slowly, answering my questions with one-word answers. I knew anything I said about the painting at this point was useless. No one ever seems to listen to children in times of need, and they continued to act like this for a half a year. It was a horrible time. It was a jolly holiday. Returning to my bedroom after everything that had happened was horrible. I remember crying when I saw my brother's empty bed, his toys that were still scattered across the floor, toys he may never be able to play with again. Before I turned to leave the room, I glanced at the painting one final time, and I noticed something peculiar. There was no dark figure, but there was something strange in one of the house windows. Curiously, I approached and looked closer. It was a face, a little boy, and from what I could tell, he looked the spitting image of my brother. His face was contorted into one of terror, and he had tears streaming down his face. His hands were both pressed up against the glass. Several months later, the police gave up the search. His funeral was held on April the 12th, to this date, the saddest day of my life. After that all, we could do was get on with our lives. I showed my parents the painting, but they shouted at me and stashed it back in the attic. They thought the boy had been in the painting all along, and that I was simply imagining the resemblance. Yes, because we thought bringing the painting of a screaming boy in a lonely house next to a cliff would be really good to put up in the boy's bedroom, because I like its simplicity. I'm 38 years old now, time jump, and have a place of my own. When I eventually left my old home, I made sure to take the painting with me.
Why?
For I am the only one who truly knows what happened to my brother.
Ooh, the puzzler coming back out.
The dark shape I saw all those years ago was some kind of entity. Something evil that intended to trap us both in the painting for an eternity. It succeeded with my brother, but I'd locked myself in the bathroom, so had been saved.
Damn, he can traverse fucking, like, the plane of different universes, but cannot go through a locked door. Lucky. Lucky for him.
This is the twist here is that it wasn't locked. The kids didn't lock the door. It's just the entity does not know how to use doorknobs.
Never used the door. You know what? Fair.
It's a painting. It doesn't know how to use a door.
Looks like a wall to hit, you know. If I had never seen the door
That's
before,
why he just kind of scratched on it like a cat.
Like push.
I keep the painting in the attic now, in case one day I might be able to free him. I can't lose hope like my parents did. After searching, I found out that the words on the back of the painting, Gadel ai ben Ihun, had been a warning. It translates to English as leave alone. Sometimes in the dead of night, I'll hear a thumping sound coming from up there, footsteps roaming around the attic. I'll always shout my brother's name, in hope he may have finally been let out. I never get a response. While there is a picture of a sad child, it is unrelated to the story itself. And I'm going to say our episode ended with the creepiest of the bunch, but it's only creepy because I am 95% sure it has aped the painting of a hallway. I would hate to think that the painting of a hallway aped previously written shorter creepypasta. So I'm just gonna give all of the points to Painting of a Hallway because
I mean maybe they read this and were like, I can write a good version of this. Because this isn't bad. It's
not
easily
to say that
the
it's
best.
Bad, but it had its issues, but you know, it does all of the things you expect when it says that the painting is there.
I do feel like you were underselling how funny the final image here is. And I know this is, obviously not a visual medium, but this crying child reminds me of something that you would somehow, and I know this isn't something that would actually happen, but it feels like something you'd see in a doctor's office. It's just like such a goofy image of a kid that doesn't even really look particularly sad, except for the fact that there are tears running down his face. Right. He also appears to maybe be like a Boy Scout or something.
It strikes me as what would be on like an oatmeal box.
Yes.
It's like enjoy oatmeal, and the kid's just like, I don't fucking want oatmeal.
And he's wearing like a smoking jacket. He's wearing like a fucking like luxurious robe.
The most luxurious of robes.
And he's got this sort of like fancy boy haircut. I don't know. I just think it's a very funny image.
Well, I'm glad that the punchline to that story for you was look at this silly child.
Look at this silly little guy. You know what? Yeah, you know, maybe he should have lived in the painting with the weird dark man. Who knows? Maybe he's having a good time in there.
Let me ask you, Ramses, out of all of the creepypastas today, Which one was your favorite and for what reason?
Gotta be the music box, because the image of a clown erupting from mist, teabagging you while you don't know what's going on, and then leaving is incredibly funny to me.
So here's where I'll say my mind goes when I read that. It's almost funny because I want to say last year, I don't think it was 2 years ago. Has it really already been 2 years? I believe last year at Halloween Horror Nights, they had an anniversary house for one of their icons, which is Jack the Clown, just a stereotypical creepy looking clown.
Okay.
The lighting naturally at Halloween Horror Nights is mostly red spotlights, and there is a lot of mist and fog around the place. It would not be unlike Jack the Clown's behavior to pop out of the mist and teabag you and then fuck off completely. So in my head, the person who wrote the music box started off by trying to tell a story about some Civil War item and ended at Halloween Horror Nights. So
it definitely was 2 stories. They started to tell one story and then forgot, and it's 1 page, so it's really impressive that they managed.
They forgot so quickly. It was the start of a creative writing assignment that they very quickly in the middle of the story just decided that they didn't want to do it anymore. And basically did the skeleton popped out that you had mentioned.
Absolutely. I think the real horror, I mean, like, maybe it's a genius piece of writing, and the real horror is the sort of like obvious cognitive decline of the author as he wrote this single page. Who knows?
I wish I could say the same thing. The music box gets me. It really does. And I wish I could say that I liked Dollmaster as much as you liked Music Box, but for me it's still Turn Me On, Dead Man.
Turn Me On, Dead Man.
For me, it's still Turn Me On, Dead Man.
Not a story. Not a story.
Because Turn Me On, Dead Man for this episode set the fucking pace.
Yeah.
It for reasons it doesn't deserve. For reasons it doesn't deserve, it became the perfect story to read on this episode because it doesn't make any fucking sense.
It is just some guy rambling.
We've even proven that when you analyze what they're saying, it still isn't the case. I would say Pass It On is like a close second because it does the same exact fucking thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But Turn Me On, Dead Man is so specific that the more I think about it, I actually think you might be right. I think someone might be pulling a Ramses Vanderslice. I think someone might actually be taking a concept of a conspiracy theory video and writing their own shitty one on purpose. And
right.
I know you said it earlier and I poo-pooed it.
Well,
but the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm like, that was too succinct and too stupid for it to not be. But at the same time,
there's no clear punchline.
You'd be really
right?
No, the punchline is no. There is a punchline. There is 100% a punchline. The punchline is them just ending it and saying, "Look at the lyrics to come together."
Sure. Yeah. No. And that is the punchline.
That is the punchline because the lyrics don't make any fucking sense. Like you said, they are famously just words.
Just nonsense. Sure.
It is them getting high and just talking, just coming up with words that sound cool next to each other. That is the song Come Together.
Yeah.
They're naming people that
too.
They're seeing on a street, and they're just saying, "What do you call that guy?" Yeah, that guy's the purple. That guy's the purple parakeet. That guy, yeah, look at him go. That's what Come Together is. So
that guy's wearing jeans. He must dig graves for a living. I know this one.
Oh. At the
Wow.
very same time, though, I'm going to refute myself and say people can be very, very, very fucking stupid. And
I think it's serious.
Someone
I
could
think,
have written that seriously.
I think Turn Me On Dead Man is 100% sincere, which is what I love about it. Just sort of a man rambling.
That is absolutely mind-blowing to me.
Dude, there are some people out there. There's this, not to take a huge digression to the very end of the episode, but like there are some people that I've ended up following as a result of digging into conspiracy corners of the internet, where like the content they put out is so niche and weird. I once ended up watching this stream of this woman, and she was just talking about how she'd been like, she's a genetic experiment. She was raised in an underground military base. But the entire time she's telling this, she's just eating a tub of cottage cheese. And that was way more fascinating to me. I watched her eat an entire tub of cottage cheese over the course of the stream.
As she just spouts the most ungodly word vomit, the most unbelievable shit into the ether.
So all I'm saying is, Turn Me On Dead Man, that's pretty, it's small potatoes. It's pretty tame. That's pretty tame. I think that person was dead serious, which is awesome. And not a story. I will say one last time, Danny, I love you to pieces. It's just not a narrative.
Well, it's not Danny's fault. It's not Danny's fault.
No, it's not. I think
Don't
it's
blame
great.
Danny.
Danny
it's Creepypasta's fault for taking that as a story. Creepypasta should, and I say should with big italic bold letters, right? I say should only accept stories, but for some reason the moderators, like we said, moderation is important. The moderators of Creepypasta just said, eh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the fact that I can't make up my mind on that one is exactly why it's my favorite.
I'm trying to find the original like Creepypasta post. Is it on r/Creepypasta, or is there a site for Creepypasta?
No, it's just it should just be creepypasta like .com.
.com?
Yeah, like a website. Yeah, I found it. It's the Creepypasta wiki. Here.
Got it. Yeah, I'm looking at it. The top comment. It's hilarious how many people in these comments forget that this is a creepypasta. It's actually not. Of course people forget because this isn't a creepypasta. Okay, sorry. Anyway. I wanted to see how people responded to this, because I just genuinely this is honestly just goofy. It is not scary. And the lyrics at the end don't seem connected in any way to the story. Not to mention that I'm pretty sure these lyrics are under copyright. So this person has all the same criticisms that I have, but is still taking it to be a story because they mentioned the copyright thing at the end. So that's really confusing to me that they have hit on all of the things wrong with this, but not really come to the conclusion that we have.
I highly recommend everyone go to this forum and read the comments on the Creepypasta wiki for this story, because people are having the same conversation we are, but worse, because it's the internet.
Way worse. And some people are just taking it seriously. This theory gave me chills up and down my spine. There was a lot of thought put into this theory, and I oddly enough think that it is possible that what you said had happened. So, okay, I'm done. That's it for me. Jesus
looking
Christ.
at that is like looking into the sun. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Oh, God bless them. Everyone.
Ramses, how do you feel about today's Halloween special episode?
I feel great. I think Danny Ween was a smashing success, and I can only hope that next year it will be twice as good.
Well, it won't even have to be next year. Now I know what the next episode is going to be. It's going to be those 2 remaining Danny recommended stories.
Awesome.
The
Perfect.
longer ones.
Wonderful.
Oh, but this was Danny's Halloween special, so maybe we'll get Danny's New Year's special. You know, maybe we'll record in January and we'll revisit Danny Boy, see how he's doing.
I'm just going to track Danny down and make him explain himself on the pod. So I think that'll be the episode.
There was a point there where there were other people that I was opting to kind of do on episode like interviews with.
Oh yeah.
But I draw my lines at like you do need to have a good audio quality. I can't really do phone quality. Like I draw some lines at some standards, but I think the conversation with Danny never came up because it was years ago.
Sure.
It was years ago. I don't know the last time I've actually talked to him. But he was a follower earlier on in the show. We definitely reference him a lot earlier. It's not that we forgot about you, the Danny Boy. I just think you probably aren't listening to the show anymore. But I'm glad that you live on in this capacity, because he was like, "Oh, I love your guys' show. You guys read stories so well. You should read this." And he would just send us stuff. He would just be like, "You should try reading this one day. Like, I found this one interesting.
I love that.
This one was," and I'll listen to whatever people have to say. Hey, you're our fucking audience, you know. Tell me what you want to hear. If anything, I'll take a look, you know. So I never vet anything. Which is probably how we ended up reading My Immortal.
It works awesome.
We read My Immortal,
well.
which is the Harry Potter erotic fan fiction. So God, it's like
I love that story.
It is fantastic. It's just, you know, not what I wanted to read on the show. And once I got into it and realized what it was, I had to dedicate to it at that point.
Sure.
But this is what happens when we don't vet our material. We get something hilarious and intriguing all in one go, and then we decide to dedicate an entire episode with it, completely derailing our original idea for tonight, which was doing a creepypasta versus no sleep episode. So this was funny that we did this live, that you were willing to deviate. I'm
absolutely willing to commit to something, especially if I think it's going to be goofy. So I'm all over it.
You and my buddy Django need to fucking do an episode together at some point, because he has the same exact idea about this show that you do. And I make him read probably the most uninteresting stuff to him, because I make him read like good stories. And he's just like, he's like, "No, like, I want to read the short, stupid ones that don't make any sense." And someone just put pen to paper and said, "Uh-huh."
Yeah, dude, that's the best. I've talked about it every single episode. I will always mention it. Like, bad art does something for me that nothing else in the world does. Bad writing is so fun. I love to see someone just try and mangle the English language and just completely fuck things up in ways I've never seen them fucked up. That's fun to me. And so whenever I come across that, it's so good.
I'm also going to tell Django to listen to your episodes, because he's just 100% on the same wavelength as you. He reads so well, you read so well, that I think you guys are worth better material. And I'm like, let's read something that actually has some merit. You know, maybe we'll both read something, you know, actually enjoyable and eye-opening. But the funny thing about Django is I've put him through so many ringers. Like, I've made him read some of the longest, most dramatic stories I've been able to find on Reddit. And at the end of it, he's just like, "Yeah, it's done." You know, he 100% in his soul would have much rather read stupid bullshit for an hour and a half.
Yeah, man after my own heart. I I totally get it.
Oh man. Well, Ramses, it was wonderful having you here once again. I will
Pleasure to be
I
here.
will return you to your crypt until you will once again be excavated in the new year, and I will have you on another episode where we will finish what we started here today
Beautiful.
with fucking Danny Boy's Halloween fucking playlist. Oh,
Love it.
any final words that you would like to Kurt Vonnegut us with?
Oh no, I don't have anything as neat and sort of concise as that. Stay hydrated, get enough sleep. Come on, take care of yourself. Jesus Christ, you're a mess. That's what I have to say to the audience.
That's fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. Well, as I said, I hope everyone has a wonderful upcoming Halloween. We will be back for another review-ish episode of Halloween Horror Nights for our actual Halloween episode, which I'm looking forward to recording. So I hope you guys stay tuned. And to touch on Ramsey's final note, if you're going out this Halloween, if you're gonna get up to some tricks and some treats, just be careful.
Be responsible.
Be responsible. Don't drink.
You've got kids now.
Don't drink and drive. Yeah, some of you have kids now. Get one of you to DD, or you have that one friend who doesn't drink. He just smokes. Get him to drive you. So that you guys can party, because he'll be fine and you could get tanked. And just like my friend, where am I, at my party last year, he brought a tent, and he said, I'm gonna sleep in this tent in your backyard when the party is done. And I said,
Sure.
okay, cool. And the party's toning down. He's looking a little drunk. We're finishing off the remaining shots that were left over. And he goes, I'm going to go to bed. He goes outside. He gets into the tent. He comes back in 15 minutes later and says, I threw up in the tent, and falls asleep on my dining room floor.
I love that.